My name's Dan Buchanan. I live in Brighton, and I'm known as the history guy of Brighton. And that describes my role.
So you're also an author, right?
Yes, over the last several years, I've written and published 3 books. They're kind of the tip of the iceberg to all the genealogy and history work that I do. I have lots of fun going around selling them at the farmers markets.
Tell me a bit about the 3, you've got 3 books, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about each one of them.
Okay. Well, the first book was published in 2015. That's Murder in the Family, the Dr. King story. That's Brighton's murder, but it's also family history for me because the murderer was a member of my family tree. Big event, actually, in 1858-59, court in Coburg had the trial, and there was a public hanging, the only one to ever happen in Northumberland County. And they said that 10,000 people attended the public hanging. So William Henry King was hanged in June of 1859, and his family brought him home and buried him in the front yard of their farmhouse. The same farmhouse where I grew up in the 1950s and 60s out at Codrington. So it was part of our family history. We weren't supposed to know anything about it. I couldn't get away from the farm fast enough when I was 20, but in 2010 I came back to Brighton to do this local history work, and people would come up to me and tell me bits and pieces of the story. Crazy stuff. So after my grandfather passed away in '93 and my dad in 2012, I figured it was time to really get down to the nitty-gritty and tell this story from a historical standpoint so we know what actually happened. And it turns out it's a much more interesting story than my grandfather ever knew. The second book was the 38 Hours to Montreal, which we see here. This was published in 2018. This is a road trip in 1840 from Toronto to Montreal. William Wellers, the stagecoach king in Coburg, he drove the governor general of the time from Toronto to Montreal in under 38 hours. Actually under a contract to do that, or else he wouldn't be paid. So land speed record, major accomplishment, written up in the papers at the time. And this is 1840, so not a time we know much about. But I saw that and I said, first of all, well, why is the governor general in such a big hurry? And it comes down to the historical context, which for a historian, that's what I was really interested in. The Mackenzie Rebellion just over with a couple of years before. Lord Durham had done his report. This new governor general was now passing all sorts of legislation to do these reforms in the government. He'd been 3 months in Toronto. Now he needed to do the same thing in Montreal. So there's a historical context for the trip that made it so critical. But I wrote the book as a road trip. So you're sitting on the bench beside Mr. Weller going through every little town and village, basically number 2 highway today. But who were the movers and shakers at the time, and where did the road go in 1840, that kind of thing. Kind of a snapshot in time, again, for a time we don't hear much about. The third book came out in August of 2020. It's the wreck of HMS Speedy, the tragedy that shook Upper Canada. And of course, this is a much bigger story. It's well known in terms of it's been told many times over the years. The British gunboat was lost off Presqu'Île in 1804. Big mystery. It was just lost in a storm. Lots of important people on board. They were coming to do a murder trial. So always lots of discussion in the diving community as to where it might be. I'd always wanted to do the history story. Like 1804, we don't hear, again, a time we don't hear much about. So I wanted to be able to paint that picture. But the book was done because the second part of the story came around. And that is that in the early 1990s, a professional diver in Belleville believed he had found the remains of the Speedy out in Lake Ontario. Had spent 3 summers in the early 90s diving out there. His problem was that he didn't get along with the archaeologists. And as a result, they discounted his work, and nothing ever happened from all that diving. Well, he passed away in 2017, and a year later his family gave me his documents. So I was able to see the daily diving records, what they'd found, locations, and even some videos. So It gave me the excuse to write the history story, which is the bulk of the book, but also to end the book with a few chapters about the diving and what they found, and kind of a message to the archaeology community that there's work out there that needs to be done. All three of the books are available in bookstores and libraries. Paper copies can be ordered from Amazon and Indigo websites, among others. And all three come in ebook form for those so inclined. For more information, please visit my website, www.danbuchananhistoryguy.com. There you will see information about the books and much more about my history work. There is a history section which provides lots of information about Brighton and area history. Also, check out the videos and recordings sections to see all the videos I have done, as well as recordings of some of my speaking events. In particular, you will find a 5-part video series that mirrors the HMS Speedy book, and another video about the outstanding mystery around the remains of the ship. There is also an events section which lists times and places where you can find me in the future. If you would like an entertaining guest speaker for a meeting of your club or organization, please use the contact information to get in touch with me. I'm happy to go anywhere at any time to tell a history story. I can also do virtual presentations as required. Thanks for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the books. I'd like to thank Sean Scally for recording and producing the parts of this video where I'm sitting and talking. We did the recording at the old Trenton Town Hall, home of the Trent Port Historical Society, on June 22, 2022. Sean posted the recording on his Facebook with very good response, and I appreciate that he passed me a copy of the video so that I could use it in a video of my own. Thanks, Sean. Great work.